Hello guys, this is Joana Saahirah with a video about the organic role of hands and arms in Egyptian dance. This video comes from some of the questions my students are sharing with me at our online course, Arms and Hands in Egyptian Dance. And it's a question I think many of you, even if you're not taking the course, will enjoy to hear me about. So here's the thing, and I will try to go to the point. Okay, most of these subjects are so wide, and it's difficult to put into a few words what many cannot explain in many words, you know. So Egyptian dance is tricky. It's tricky to speak about because it comes from a different culture, which is not our own. Even if I'm speaking to Egyptians, you know, Egyptian dance is kind of a mystery in many ways, even for Egyptians who see it in a not a very positive way, by the way. So here we go, another attempt of addressing issues with clarity and focus. I will try, okay? So Egyptian dance is organic, it's spontaneous. If you ask an Egyptian or an Arab about his dance, her dance, and you tell him or her, in the West we have schools and we have rules and we have methods of teaching and we have names for the movement, they will find it very funny or ridiculous. Okay, so it's nice if you understand that in the birthplace of the dance, this is a spontaneous expression of joy, of sadness, of emotion. So it is not a subject of study, it is not an intellectual study, it is not a mental job, it is not something people even write about. Okay, the first book about Egyptian dance written by an Egyptian was published a couple of years ago only, literally, and it was not from a dancer even. It was an Egyptian lady who published a little book, very basic, by the way, and I'm not a fan of the book, but she published, an Egyptian woman, a book about baladi for the Cairo University. So this is strange, you know, if you think about how come Egyptians don't write about Egyptian dance, it's because they don't consider it a subject of study, okay? So it is supposed to be as natural as breathing, as natural as talking, as I'm talking with you right now. In the West, we took it to another level. Okay, we ruined it in many ways and we improved it in many ways. One of the things that we did in the West was to try to find rules and standards and methods and labels for movements and steps. So we organized an information that is spontaneous and kind of chaotic in its birthplace. And we organized it into a language that can be taught and can be formatted and put into shelves, let's say. So there is a name for this movement, there is a pose here, there is another pose, then you go with the right leg, then you go with the left. Of course, even today in Egypt, you still have this spontaneous approach to the dance, but you have more professional dancers. So you have a newer generation of Egyptian dancers who already know how to choreograph, who already know how to teach, who already know right and left, who already know a little bit about pedagogy, but that's something very recent, okay? The generation I learned from, you know, Fifiado, Soher Zeki, Naga Fuad, the really big ones, and I say this, it's my personal taste, of course, the really big ones, they didn't know how to teach. They had no concept of pedagogy or method or names for whatever, you know. Their way of teaching was just to improvise in front of you and you would follow them. And that's not even teaching at all, at least not for my concept of teaching, but that's how it worked. So recently there is a newer generation of dancers in Egypt who actually see dance as something that can be taught. Of course, they work more for the foreign market than for the Egyptian market, so it makes sense that they grow in that sense, in that direction, okay? But also, there is still this notion, and I think very natural and very accurate, that Egyptian dance at a certain level cannot be structured. There is a part of it that is so spontaneous, so natural, so organic, that what we can do is recover that organic movement. Of course, you need to be very clever to do that and to know dance very well from within. You have to recover the organic natural movement. Find a way, a pedagogy, a way of recovering what is already natural to your body, a way of understanding what your body does instinctively. So arms and hands and the way they are integrated in Egyptian dance are a very good example for what I'm telling you, that a lot of it cannot be structured in the Western sense of the word. Arms and hands are a natural extension of the body. So the way you're seeing me use my hands talking with you right now is basically the way we use our hands and our arms when we're dancing. Now, of course, you cannot tell this to students because they will want a formula. People want formulas. Okay? They don't want me to say, oh, it's just like talking. That's not a real information. I agree with that. So when you come to a teacher, you want a formula, you want a method, you want to understand what the hell is going on. You don't want me to say it's a spontaneous movement, let your body talk, let your arms and your hands coordinate naturally with the rest of the body. You want to know, how do I do that? Not spontaneously, not instinctively, but how do I do that? How do I control the process? And although there's a part of it that cannot be controlled, I will say this until I give up. Or until I change my mind, of course. I will eventually change my mind. Who knows? So there is a part of it that I think by now you cannot control, you cannot structure, you cannot teach. An instinctive way of dealing with your body, not only arms and hands, but everything in your body, that comes from within. It comes from your sense of survival. It comes from your sensibility. It comes from your own body language, which is very personal. Everybody has different ways of moving their body and different relationships with their body. Some people are more expressive, some are less. Some people are more in good terms with their bodies, and some people are not. So there is a lot of personal issues going on here that will affect the way you move naturally and the way you use your arms and your hands, or not. Some people don't use them at all. They just get stuck or in a very strange position waiting for someone to tell them, what do I do with my arms? Actually, that's, I find, the majority of people. That's what happens with most of us. So what we have to do when we study Egyptian dance and when we go for arms and hands is basically find lines. I teach that to my students all the time. Lines, directions, a notion of center, and from that center, the concept, the awareness of directions and lines. Using your arms as wings, as collaborators of movement that help you find balance and speed and momentum, that help you turn better, that engage with your other movement, whatever that may be, and helps you to do that movement with more fluidity, effortlessly, with more efficiency and less strength, less effort. The arms and the hands can be great movement enhancers as well. They can frame movements. They pinpoint directions. They have many, many functions, but at the core of it, and when we go the full circle and take students to a more mature phase of arms and hands in Egyptian dance, what actually happens is you start to talk with your hands and your arms, but without words. That's what good Egyptian dance technique does. It allows you to talk better, yeah, without words. Now, the thing about Egyptian dance and arms and hands is when it's properly done, it looks very easy. It looks very natural. So I recently had students commenting on one of the classes we already had at the course, Arms and Hands in Egyptian Dance, telling me, I thought your hands and your arms were always coming from a very instinctive place. I didn't think you were so rational, so structured. And my answer is, I am both, and as a dancer, you have to be both, especially if you're a teacher, of course, because what I do naturally, I have to understand so that I can explain and teach you. I cannot just put myself in front of you and say, do it like me. That's the old Egyptian style of teaching, but I don't consider it teaching, as I already mentioned. So what I already do instinctively, I have to understand. I have to distill. It's a distill filtering process that I have to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this so that I can teach them? So yes, there is a lot of instinct in the way I use my arms and my hands, but at the same time, there's a lot of structure, of lines, as I said, of little rules that I break all the time. But as I mentioned many times, you cannot break the rules that you ignore. So first you learn the structure, first you learn the rules that we can create without violating the dance and without killing the spontaneity and the organicity that is so much at the core of this dance. Yeah. So what we do in arms and hands, this theme for Egyptian dance is basically going for both sides of the story. We recover the instinctive, we recover the natural, but we also structure, we also organize the movement and the information so that everybody can have a few rules that look and feel natural, but will help them move more harmoniously with more self-control, self-awareness, and more creativity. We create a canvas where you can paint your own stuff. You can be totally free inside that canvas, always without violating the nature of the dance. This is my main point, and this is what I find so discouraging in many Western teachers, because with the best intention, they try to find very complicated methods. Okay, position number one, position number two, position number three, position number four, and that's just totally out of the nature of Egyptian dance as I know it, at least. Okay, so we cannot go all the way to the other extreme point. We have to have one foot in the Orient, one foot in the West, so that we can take the best of each side. This is what I try to do, at least in my courses and in my dance, that I can have the feeling, the instinct, the spontaneity, the organic side of the dance coming from from the East, but at the same time, the structure, the lines, the harmony, the knowledge, the organization of information from the West. And the combination of both makes a good teacher, I believe, and makes a good dancer or a great dancer. It contributes to great dance. It doesn't make a great dancer. You need much more to be a great dancer, but it makes good conditions and it creates good conditions so that you can move in a correct way, but more than correct, you can move in a soulful, expressive, beautiful, harmonious way that doesn't look like a puppet, doesn't look like a machine. You still look and you still feel like a person. This is a big challenge, and it's very rare these days. So you're kind of going totally out of the box by doing that, but that's what we're here for, okay? So guys, understand that arms and hands and every other part of Egyptian dance is so much more than a set of rules. Oh my God, we all wish it was that easy, but it's not. It's so much more interesting and so much more challenging, you know. So you find the rules that will not ruin the nature of the dance, but then within those rules, you follow your instinct. You rediscover what your body wants. You rediscover what your body already knows, and you are not aware of. This is great adventure. This is one of the reasons why I love Egyptian dance, because it allows me to get to know myself and my body all over again. I always feel I'm starting from the beginning. All my years of career in Egypt, all my years of career around the world, all the dances I taught along the way, all the shows I've done, my God, I feel like a beginner. And the reason is because this dance is really mysterious. It's about knowing yourself and knowing your body and finding the logic, but also finding the mystery and the instinctive side of the dance that is really, you cannot explain, like love. And it's beautiful, man. So think about it in those terms. So much more interesting, and it will serve you better. Okay? If you feel inclined to do so, you're welcome to join our Arms and Hands in Egyptian Dance online course. As you know, all our classes are live, face to face with me. So I'm watching you, observing you, correcting you, and you can share your questions as well, and they are recorded. So even if you miss the classes, you can access the recordings and review them for unlimited time, in your own time, as many times as you want, okay? By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I'm wearing our new t-shirt with a logo created by Ana Oliveira, the designer who did the logo of our school. So you see this beautiful fancy baby. We're gonna offer some of these t-shirts to some lucky students. Stay tuned. Okay? Mwah! Happy practice, happy dance, and much, much love.